we'll continue through the ONS section with module number 7 this week. After this, we will have 3 more chapters to go over, and then we will complete the course. As always, you are free to work at the speed that you like, but I'll be going 1 chapter at a time every week until we reach the end. This week will be all about storage optimization. It is only 2 lessons long, so this will not be a long lecture. As a reminder of storage, an essential portion of your data store, your data center, its performance hinges on the proper configuration of your storage devices, on the load balancing across your available storage, and the queue from your storage device. As we covered in the earlier section, ESXi supports quite a number of ways to get storage on board. All the storage protocols that are supported from Fiber Channel through NFS are capable of delivering your high throughput performance. If CPU resources aren't causing a bottleneck, then you might have a bottleneck with something like iSCSI or NFS. Storage is essential, so you want to ensure that your hardware, that your storage hardware is interconnected in a high-speed manner, which could be using like 10, 25, 40, 50 gigabit Ethernet, using hardware, iSCSI hardware initiators, or using Fiber Channel to funnel through the storage. A SAN can also help in eliminating performance problems. You could have a SAN with multiple NICs to handle the weight of the amount of traffic coming in and out. And it could be done by either the most recently used NIC or a fixed or round robin or any other third-party selection. But no matter which way you use, it always comes down to the queue. The data that needs to get read or written, there's always going to be a buffer for that, because that's just how computers work. So if you have a buffer that is too small because the controller can't handle so much, or because there's a lot of traffic coming in and out, so the NIC gets slowed up, or it could be happening within the infrastructure, within the server. Either way, you want to identify where the latency is, where your possible bottlenecks are. Could it be that you have a slow drive, a slow actual spinning drive versus an SSD? Where is the latency in your infrastructure? With using network storage like iSCSI and NFS, you ideally want to use specific switches to handle nothing but storage traffic. Obviously, that is not always ideal or possible because of budget or technical restrictions or whatnot. Just know that using iSCSI and NFS does require CPU resources on the host, and you can oversubscribe these. VLANs do not solve the problem of oversubscription. Isolating them does. At least it's helpful. And the reason why VLANs don't necessarily help is because it's all about the devices who are processing. So just because you have one switch, but you have 3 VLANs, that one switch still has to process 3 VLANs. If you had a second switch to do nothing but storage. Well, then that means all the processing for that switch will be dedicated to nothing but storage. That's the end of that. Lesson 2 is monitoring, similar to the earlier monitoring chapters. esxtop is the tool of choice for the command line, yet again. So again, for storage, it is only as fast as the slowest device on the network, whether that is the disk, the actual disk, or that's the controller, or that's the NIC. At some point, there's going to be the slowest device, and that's going to set the bar for all the communication. So your problem could be the VMDK file all the way down to physical. To identify any disk-related issues, you want to determine your available bandwidth. You want to find your disk throughput, your latency from the device to the kernel, aborted commands, active disk commands, commands in queue. You want to know how fast your device can handle. Of course, esxtop can be built, customized to get this certain information out, like the reads and writes, and so on, for storage. You can use E to get a specific adapter name and see more information based off of that specific disk or LUN. You can use vSphere client to identify which LUNs are being associated with which data store, because this information won't be as clear. But here you can get that information that you'll need. You can view the storage adapters and see the information for the unique LUN identifier for each device that you have connected. You can also see path statistics for specific storage devices. You can sort by device ID even to get specific information about the read and write speeds. Of course, we can look into a VM and see its statistics, its storage statistics, and dive deep by the GID to see how it's working. You'll have a number of metrics, and here's kind of an explanation of what they are. It's all measured in milliseconds. The time that it takes an iSCSI command to transmit from source to destination and back. You can see things like the sum of all latency, the guest OS latency experience, the time spent in the kernel, the time spent in queue, and the time spent for the command to go and come back. So these same items are these. So you understand where it's getting this information. So you have the adapter and you have that information all listed here within esxtop. The metrics, of course, are available for monitoring. So if you want to see the number of active commands, it would be this. If you want to see the number of commands that are queued, you would see this. Here they are. Looking at the device view and U. can also see the latency on the kernel at the K average. Here's an example of good throughput and low latency and bad throughput, high latency. This is the stuff you don't want to see. You don't want to see a very low throughput for a device with a high latency. You want the opposite. High throughput, very low latency. So here's the question. What esxtop fields reflect the physical storage's device latency? And the answer is the first and last. If a device is receiving command aborts, that is something that you'll need to identify right away and correct. If you see the aborts higher than 0, then you know your storage is being overloaded. That is not a good thing. Increase in I/O latency could be during a backup operation. It could be during a high use storage from a VM, or it could be signs of of an impending problem. These are things that you should not just leave for later. These are things you should investigate. Some best practices, but again, your best practice will always depend on the infrastructure and the organization you are working in. Configure each LUN with the storage characteristics for applications and VMs that will use that LUN. Avoid oversubscripting any paths. Use storage DRS whenever possible. Isolate iSCSI and NFS traffic. Applications that'll do a lot of writing should probably not share same Ethernet links. Postpone any major storage maintenance until off-peak hours. Spread your I/O load over all available paths. And try to strive for complementary workloads to ensure that everything is evenly loaded, nothing's overloaded, and you are still able to handle your essential traffic plus any other traffic that is occurring on the network. You'll have a lab, of course, in that lab. And you'll be able to monitor these things. And that is actually the end of this section. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to ask away in Discord.